Are you excited to learn about post-impressionism?
Do you want to know the history behind it?
Well, buckle your seatbelts and prepare to be traveled into the world of post-impressionism.
Our learning outcomes for today consists of what is post-impressionism, what's the difference between impressionism and post-impressionism, the rise of post-impressionism,
Characteristics of post-impressionism, characteristics of post-impressionism according to artists, post-impressionism around the world.
and interesting facts about post-impressionism.
What is post-impressionism? Post-impressionism is a predominantly French art movement that developed roughly between 1886 and 1905, which was from the last Impressionist exhibition up to the birth of Fauvism. The movement emerged as a reaction against Impressionism and its concern for naturalistic depiction of light and color.
The term post-impressionism was first used by English artist and critic Roger Fry in 1906 and then again in 1910 when he organized the exhibition Manet and the Post-Impressionists, which defined it as the development of French art since Manet is a key figure in Impressionist painting.
Now let's go to the question, what's the difference? Although post-impressionism is closely related to its predecessor, the two art movements are distinct from one another. Impressionism sought to capture an experience through a depiction of the world as the artist perceived it.
In contrast with Impressionism's natural approach, Post-Impressionism focused even further on the painter's individual point of view. Post-Impressionist artists use flat shapes and unorthodox colors to elicit the energy of the subject matter rather than depict it accurately. Additionally, while Impressionists often work closely with one another, Post-Impressionists were dispersed across the globe. Next is the rise of Post-Impressionism.
By the last Impressionist exhibition in 1886, younger artists and critics demanded a shift in the focus of the representational arts. They felt the Impressionists allowed their preoccupations with technique and the effect of natural light to overshadow the importance of subject matter. Eventually, these descending artists became known as the Post-Impressionists, a term that grouped together widely varying individual artistic styles.
Indeed, many of the movement's foremost figures were rivals in method and approach. Gauguin and Seurat both detested one another and shared a low opinion of each other's styles, and fellow post-impressionist Henri Rousseau was skeptical of Cézanne's rigorously ordered style. While Paris was unquestionably the font of post-impressionism, the emphasis on symbolic and expressive content meant that the life of the city no longer was a dominant subject for artists.
Now we head on to characteristics of post-impressionism. While post-impressionist art varied depending on the individual artist's style, there were a few consistent characteristics.
First is patterned brush strokes. Post-impressionists often use broken colors applied with short brush strokes. Painters like Seurat took this idea even further by painting with carefully placed dots of a contradicting color, a technique later dubbed pointillism.
Second is unnatural colors. Unlike their predecessors, post-impressionist painters used unnatural colors that captured an emotion or perspective more than an accurate depiction of the subject matter.
And third is symbolism. Post-impressionist artists often included abstraction and used geometric shapes in unexpected ways, setting the stage for Cubism in the following century.
All in all, post-impressionists extended the use of vivid colors, thick application of paint, distinctive brush strokes, and real-life subject matter, and were more inclined to emphasize geometric forms, distort forms for expressive effect, and to use unnatural or arbitrary colors in their compositions.
Symbolic and highly personal meanings were particularly important to post-impressionists such as Paul Gauguin and Vincent van Gogh. Rejecting interest in depicting the observed world, they instead looked to their memories and emotions in order to connect with the viewer on a deeper level.
Structure, order, and optical effects of color dominated the aesthetic vision of post-impressionists like Paul Cézanne, Georges Seurat, and Paul Signac. Rather than merely representing their surroundings, they relied upon the interrelations of color and shape to describe the world around them.
Despite the various individualized styles, most post-impressionists focused on abstract form and pattern in the application of paint to the surface of the canvas. The early leanings towards abstraction paved the way for the radical modernist exploration of abstraction that took place in the early 20th century. On to post-impressionism around the world.
Although post-impressionism were centered in France, the artistic styles and theories that emerged from the movement quickly spread to other countries. The Norwegian painter Edvard Munch expanded upon the ideas of symbolism to create his own personal and highly expressive artistic style.
Others, such as the Belgian painter and printmaker James Ensor, implemented vibrant hues and flattened perspective in an anti-realist manner in order to convey the widespread tension and angst of the spirit of the fin de siècle.
Did you know that it was more of a period of painting rather than a style or movement? It was a time when many artists went their own way and developed their own style.
Other styles that often fall under the era of post-impressionism include symbolism, primitivism, synthetism, pointillism, and neo-impressionism.
And did you also know that young painters Pablo Picasso and Henri Matisse referred to Paul Cézanne as the father of us all?
In conclusion, although the name of the post-impressionist movement is widely known today, English artist and critic Roger Fry only coined the term in 1910 for an exhibition he organized at London's Grafton Galleries, Manet and the Post-Impressionists.
In the catalog, he acknowledged that the imposition of the label post-impressionism highlighted the disparity in the different styles and interests of the artists it encompassed. Despite the variations of styles and overall guiding logic behind the show, traced the progression away from Impressionism.
By 1910, movements like Fauvism, Expressionism, and Cubism already dominated the European avant-garde. Each new development in these major movements was built upon the symbolism and structure advocated by the different post-impressionist styles.
In summary, post-impressionism encompasses a wide range of distinct artistic styles that all share the common motivation of responding to the opticality of the impressionist movement. The stylistic variations all concentrated on the subject vision of the artist. The movement ushered in an era during which painting transcended its traditional role as the window unto the world and instead became a window to the artist's mind and soul. That's it for today's report. See you next time.